The patrol fleet of the Zalari Dominion drifted along the edge of their claimed border. The region was quiet, almost too quiet, with only the soft glow of distant stars reflecting off their sleek warships. For centuries, the Zalari had believed themselves to be the guardians of this part of the galaxy. Their fleets were strong, their weapons unmatched, and their scanners could pierce through any mystery dot on this day. However, their pride would be tested. Admiral Threx, the commander of the fleet, stood on the bridge of the flagship Vorketh. His scales shimmered a pale blue under the dim lights, and his sharp eyes focused on the sensor screens. The fleet numbered 30 ships, each armed with heavy plasma cannons and energy shields that could withstand almost anything known to the galaxy. His officers felt safe, confident, and untouchable. Then a warning tone echoed through the control. "Chamber, Admiral," called out Sensor Officer Yelra, her voice uneasy. "An unidentified vessel has entered our border zone. It is massive." The bridge crew leaned forward, curiosity sparking in their reptilian eyes. Strange contacts were rare in this sector, and anything large enough to register this strongly on sensors was unusual. "Display it," Admiral Threx ordered. The main screen flickered, showing a blurred outline of a ship drifting silently in the void. It was dark, with no glowing engines or bright signals. From a distance, it seemed almost dead, but its size was staggering. The alien ship dwarfed their largest battleship, stretching across kilometers of empty space. The officers whispered among themselves. "What kind of construction is that?" one muttered. "No known species builds ships that size," another said. Admiral Threx raised a hand for silence. His pride swelled. This was an opportunity to prove the superiority of the Zalari. "Run a full scan," he ordered. "We will see what this ghost truly is." The scanning beam stretched out, invisible but powerful, wrapping around the dark vessel. The Zalari prided themselves on their scanners. They could strip apart the secrets of any ship, revealing weapons, engines, crew numbers, even fuel types. There was no hiding from Zalari eyes. At first, the results came back normal. Basic hull shape, strange alloys, no visible insignias. But then the data began to twist. "Admiral," Yelra's voice shook as she stared at the screen. "The readings, they don't make sense." "Clarify," Threx snapped. "The ship's power output." Yelra paused, her throat tight. It's beyond anything in our records. Energy levels are off the scale. If our readings are correct, that ship could power entire worlds on its own." The bridge fell silent. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. "Impossible," Threx growled. "Your instruments are malfunctioning." Yelra shook her head quickly. "No, Admiral, I recalibrated twice. The readings hold. And that's not all. It's hull composition. It's unknown. Our beams can't penetrate deeply. It's as if the material bends the scan back at us." More data poured in, and the picture grew stranger. Weapon signatures were everywhere. Thousands of possible firing points dotted the hull, but none of them resembled known plasma turrets or missile bays. Some gave off faint gravitational ripples. Others pulsed with silent, hidden energy. The alien officers could not even describe them properly. The room grew colder, as if the stars themselves had dimmed. One officer finally whispered what many feared to say. "What if this is human?" The word hung heavy in the air. For centuries, humans had been spoken of in hushed tones across the galaxy. Once, they had been part of the Galactic Council, a species young but bold. They fought in wars that others dared not, adapted to worlds no sane being would live on, and built machines far beyond their years. But then, they vanished. The Council told stories that humans had weakened, destroyed themselves, or retreated into isolation. Most believed it. Some suspected otherwise. But no one had seen a human fleet in decades. Admiral Threx narrowed his eyes. Humans? They were wiped away. Old myths. Nothing more. Still, unease grew. The mysterious warship floated silently, ignoring the scans as though it was fully aware of what was happening and simply didn't care. "Admiral," Yelra said again, her hands trembling above the controls. The deeper we scan, the stranger it becomes. I am detecting fields around the vessel. They warp space. They are not shields, not cloaking, not anything I recognize. It's as if the ship is wrapped in folded dimensions. The bridge crew murmured nervously. Enough, Threx barked. Send a scout vessel. I will not sit here trembling like hatchlings. We will see this ship up close, and if it dares to threaten us, we will crush it. The order was given, and one of the smaller cruisers, the Rescar, broke formation and glided toward the dark giant. The crew of the scout ship felt the weight of the mission pressing down on them. To approach something so massive, so silent, was like flying into the mouth of a sleeping predator. As the Rescar drew closer, more details came into view. The alien warship's hull was smooth, but not like metal. It seemed almost alive, shifting, slightly under the starlight. No windows, no insignias, no communication lights. Only an endless black surface broken by subtle lines that suggested doors, weapons, or something worse. The scout captain, a cautious veteran, opened a channel back to the flagship. We are within visual range, Admiral. The structure is unnatural. I advise extreme caution. Continue scanning, Threx ordered sharply. We must know what it hides. The Rescar obeyed, sending another powerful burst of energy across the warship. For a moment, the sensors filled with static. Then, everything changed. The dark ship stirred. Not visibly, not with weapons fire, but with something deeper. Energy signatures spiked across its hull. Space around it bent and rippled. Gravitational waves shook the scout ship, making its crew clutch at their seats. The warship had not fired, had not moved, but it had awakened. On the flagship Vorketh. Alarms blared. Yelra's screen filled with terrifying readings. Admiral. Weapon systems activating. Thousands of them. Energy levels climbing far beyond our highest estimates. It's alive with power. The scout ship desperately tried to retreat, its engines burning hot, but the void itself seemed to resist them. The warship was not holding them, not directly, but its presence alone bent the space they were trying to cross. The captain of the Rescar shouted into the comms, "We shouldn't be here. This is not a derelict, it's a predator." On the flagship, fear spread like wildfire. Officers who once laughed now stood pale and silent. No one dared speak of humans again, but the thought burned in every mind. If this was a human warship, then the galaxy had been wrong. Humanity had not vanished. They had been preparing. Admiral Threx felt his pride waver for the first time. His claws gripped the railing of the command deck. He could no longer deny it. Something beyond his understanding drifted before them, and their arrogant scans had awakened it. The part ended with the warship's hull glowing faintly, lines of energy spreading across its surface like veins of fire. The Zalari fleet watched in frozen silence as the impossible became undeniable. The scout vessel Rescar trembled as it tried to escape the gravity ripples radiating from the mysterious ship. Its engines roared, but the void itself seemed twisted, resisting every attempt to flee. On the bridge, the Zalari crew shouted over each other, panic growing louder with every second. "Engines at maximum," cried the pilot. "We're being pulled into distortion currents," the navigator answered. "It's not pulling us," the captain corrected grimly. "It's the space itself bending around us." On the flagship Vorketh, Admiral Threx watched the scene unfold on the main display. His heart pounded, though he refused to show fear. The rest of the bridge crew stood silent, eyes locked on the impossible readings pouring across their screens. "Admiral," Sensor Officer Yelra's voice quivered. "The warship is awakening. Its systems are coming online in a sequence I cannot identify. One moment it shows heat signatures like reactors, the next gravitational pulses, then radiation bursts. It's like the ship is choosing which laws of physics to obey." Her claws shook as she tried to stabilize the readings, but the numbers only grew worse. Admiral Threx bared his sharp teeth. "Impossible. No species can control the laws of physics. It must be deception, illusions to frighten us." But deep down, even Threx did not believe his own words. The Rescar continued struggling. Then the warship, finally made its first move. Not an attack, not a shot fired. Instead, massive patterns of glowing lines spread across its black surface. They lit up one by one like veins carrying molten fire, until the entire vessel pulsed with a dim, steady heartbeat of energy. "By the stars," whispered one officer. "It's alive." The lines pulsed again, brighter this time. And with each pulse, the scout ship systems overloaded. Lights flickered, consoles sparked, and the crew screamed as alarms blared across their bridge. "They're not even aiming at us," the Rescar's captain shouted over comms. "This is a passive effect. Just being near them is tearing us apart." Admiral Threx clenched his claws. He wanted to order the scout back, but it was too late. The Rescar's hull groaned under invisible pressure, bending like soft metal. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the pressure released. The glowing veins on the warship dimmed and space itself relaxed. The scout vessel drifted, damaged but intact, its crew shaken and silent. "They spared us," Yelra whispered. The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Or they tested us." Silence hung on the bridge. Everyone felt it. The warship had not attacked because it did not need to. It was a predator showing restraint, letting the prey understand how hopeless resistance would be. "Pull the scout back," Threx ordered at last, his voice low. "No more scans, no more provocations. For now we observe." The crew obeyed, but the fear did not leave them. For hours, the Zalari fleet kept their distance, surrounding the warship in a loose formation. The dark giant remained motionless, drifting like a dead star, but its silence was worse than aggression. Every officer on every ship felt it watching them, though no sensors could confirm it. On the Vor Keth, tension grew unbearable. Officers whispered among themselves, remembering the word none dared to speak aloud: humans. At last, Yelra broke the silence. "Admiral, permission to speak freely." "Granted," Threx said. She swallowed. "This ship, it matches no design in our archives. But there are stories, old ones, of human vessels. They were always said to be larger, faster, more unpredictable than any other. The Council claimed humans destroyed themselves, but what if they didn't? What if they disappeared to build these?" Her words were dangerous, but no one stopped her. The silence that followed was heavy with truth. Threx hissed softly, refusing to show doubt. "Even if it is human, that means nothing. They are one ship. We are 30. Numbers always win." But even as he said it, he remembered the power surges, the bending space, the glowing veins. One ship had already crippled their scout without firing a single shot. If it chose to fight, could 30 ships truly stand against it? Hours later, the warship moved. It was a small motion, almost casual, but every alien ship trembled as the giant shifted its position. No engines flared, no thrusters burned. It simply slid across the void, as though space itself carried it. "Admiral," cried Yelra. "It's relocating without propulsion. I detect dimensional folding. It's skipping across space." The fleet scrambled to adjust formation, but they were too slow. The warship appeared instantly in front of them, as though the distance had never existed. Panic rippled through the officers. "It's blocking our retreat. We're surrounded." "Silence," Threx roared, though fear clawed at his throat. He turned to communications. "Open a channel. If they are human, they must speak. Perhaps they can be reasoned with." The comm officer hesitated, then nodded. A frequency was opened. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, a voice answered. It was calm, steady, and unmistakably human. "You have scanned us without consent," the voice said. "That is considered hostile." The bridge crew froze. Every scale on their bodies tightened. The voice carried no anger, no rage, only certainty. Admiral Threx swallowed hard. "This is Zalari space. You entered our border. We had a right to scan." The human voice replied, colder this time. "We cross no borders. We acknowledge no masters. Your scans were invasive. Your intentions are clear. You wish to measure us, to weigh our strength." The words hit the bridge like a hammer. The humans knew. "Who are you?" Threx asked. his voice breaking for the first time. The answer came swiftly. We are what you thought gone. We are what you tried to bury in stories. We are humanity. Gasps spread through the crew. Even Threx felt his heart sink. The myths were true. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had been waiting, preparing, building. The voice continued. Your actions have consequences. You sought knowledge. Now you have it. And you will learn what that mistake means. The channel closed. On the sensor screens. New activity erupted across the human warship. Panels shifted. Sections of the hull unfolded like wings. Weapons, too many to count, came online, glowing with unnatural energy. Drones detached, swarming silently like shadows. Admiral, Yelra whispered, her voice barely audible. They're preparing. The fleet was in chaos. Some captains demanded immediate retreat. Others argued for a first strike, claiming numbers would overwhelm even this monster. Admiral Threx stood frozen, torn between pride and survival. He could feel the eyes of every officer on him, waiting for his decision. The truth was clear. They had made a terrible mistake. By scanning the human warship, they had awoken something far beyond their understanding. The Vorketh's bridge grew tense as the warship's weapons continued to hum with restrained power. Every second felt like a blade at their throats. Then, without warning, the humans acted. But they did not fire. Instead, a single beam of light shot from the warship and struck a nearby asteroid. The rock, kilometers wide, shattered instantly, vaporized into dust. Not melted, not broken, erased. The message was clear. On the bridge of the Vorketh, silence reigned. The alien officers finally understood. They were prey standing before a predator, and the predator had only chosen not to kill them yet. Admiral Threx lowered his head slightly, the weight of fear pressing on him. The Zalari had always believed themselves mighty. But in that moment, they realized the truth. They had scanned a human warship, and now the humans were warning them. Their greatest mistake had only just begun. The Zalari fleet floated in silence after the asteroid's destruction. Dust drifted where solid rock had once been. Every alien officer on every ship now understood. The warship before them held power that could wipe them out in a heartbeat. On the flagship Vorketh, Admiral Threx stood rigid, claws digging into the railing. Pride and fear fought inside him. His people had ruled this border for centuries, had crushed rebels and rivals alike. But nothing in his long career had prepared him for this. The human warship loomed before them, silent and unhurried, as if time itself bent to its will. Its surface still glowed faintly with molten lines, each pulse a reminder of the energy it held back. Then the human voice returned. This is your final warning, it said, calm but heavy with authority. Do not provoke us again. The bridge, crew felt the words like a weight pressing down on their scales. None dared to respond. Admiral Threx finally spoke, forcing strength into his voice. You claim to be humanity. That is impossible. You disappeared from the galaxy generations ago. The Council declared you destroyed. There was a pause. Then the voice answered, colder than before. The Council lied. Shock rippled through the bridge. Officers exchanged nervous glances. Some whispered prayers to their ancestors. The voice continued. While you fought petty wars, while you enslaved weaker races, while you crowned yourselves rulers of the stars, we watched. We remembered. We built. And now we return. Admiral Threx felt his chest tighten. Return? For what? He asked. To reclaim what is ours, the human voice replied. To show the galaxy that humanity does not kneel. Not to the Council. Not to the Dominion. Not to anyone. The comms fell silent. Panic began to spread among the Zalari fleet. Captains sent desperate messages to the Vorketh, demanding orders. Admiral, we must retreat. No, strike now while it is only one ship. Numbers will not matter, it will tear us apart. Arguments broke out. Fear gnawed at discipline. Admiral Threx silenced the channel with a single command. But inside, doubt clawed at him. He had seen the asteroid vanish. He had seen his scout crippled by mere proximity. Every instinct told him the humans were beyond anything he could match. Yet pride refused to die. He was Zalari. He was Admiral. He could not simply bow. "We wait," he finally told his officers. "We will not provoke, but we will not run either. If they wish to speak further, they will. Until then, hold position." The fleet obeyed, though unease grew heavier with each passing minute. Then, something new appeared on the sensors. "Admiral," Yelra shouted. "Multiple contacts emerging from folded space, coordinates all around us." The display lit up. More warships dropped into view, each one enormous, each one pulsing with the same dim energy veins. 1, 2, 5, and then 10. Soon the Zalari fleet was surrounded. Gasps filled the bridge. "It wasn't just one," whispered Yelra. "It was never just one." The human fleet now filled the void, forming a circle around the 30 Zalari ships. Each vessel dwarfed their battleships. Each hummed with restrained power, their weapons silent but ready. Admiral Threx's mouth went dry. He finally understood. The lone ship had been bait, a lure to test them, and like fools, they had taken it. The human voice returned, though now it carried the echo of many commanders speaking as one. "You are not our target," it said, "but you stand in our way. Choose wisely." Threx forced his voice steady. "What do you want from us?" The answer came like thunder. "We want you to remember. You thought humanity gone. You thought us broken. You thought us weak. Now you see the truth. We have returned to the stars, and the galaxy will never again treat us as prey." On the bridge, officers trembled. Some looked ready to abandon their posts. Others stared at the glowing warships with silent despair. Threx realized the truth he had tried to deny. This was not a simple encounter. This was history itself unfolding before them. The Zalari fleet remained frozen, weapons primed but unused. The humans made no move to attack. Instead, they began a demonstration. One of the warships released a cloud of small drones. They spread out in perfect formation, moving faster than any Zalari sensor could track. In moments, they surrounded a nearby moon. Then, without a single shot, the drones dismantled it piece by piece. The moon's crust split apart like paper. Mountains, valleys, and canyons broke into fragments. The drones tore everything into raw matter, refining and reshaping it before the Zalari's horrified eyes. In less than an hour, the moon was gone. In its place, a new structure floated, a fortress of black metal, glowing with the same molten lines as the warships. "They built an entire station," Yelra whispered, her voice shaking. "From nothing. In an hour." Admiral Threx said nothing. His pride was crumbling. The humans were showing them what could be done, not with threats, but with proof, and every Zalari officer knew, if such power were turned against them, they would not last seconds. Another warship demonstrated differently, its silent weapon activated, firing an invisible pulse at the Zalari flagship. The Vorketh shook violently. Lights flickered. Consoles went dark. For several seconds, the mighty flagship drifted powerless, its entire system dead. Officers screamed, fearing the end. Then, just as suddenly, power returned. Engines, weapons, shields all came back online as if nothing had happened. "They shut us down," Yelra whispered. "Completely, without firing a single missile." Fear spread like poison through the fleet. No one wanted to fight anymore. No one even wanted to be near these ships. Admiral Threx clenched his claws, fury and fear mixing inside him. "Why?" he demanded aloud, though the humans were not on channel. "Why show us this? Why spare us?" As if in answer, the human voice returned. "This is restraint," it said. "We do not seek war with you. But if war is forced upon us, we will end it before it begins." The message ended, but its meaning lingered. On the bridge, silence stretched long. Threx finally spoke, voice heavy with defeat. "Transmit to the fleet. All ships are to stand down. No aggression, no provocation. From this moment, we survive by obedience. His officers obeyed at once. No one argued. They had seen enough to. No resistance was death. As the Zalari ships lowered their weapons, the human fleet shifted slowly, their formation parting to clear a path. The message was clear: leave and live. Stay and risk annihilation. The Zalari fleet began to withdraw. Engines glowed as they pulled away from the trap. Not a single human ship pursued them. Not a single shot was fired. But fear followed them. On the Vorketh, Threx slumped into his command chair, scales pale with shame. He knew what his people would say when they returned. Some would call him coward. Others would demand revenge. But deep down, he understood a truth far greater. It had not been his choice. The humans had decided everything the moment they revealed themselves. The Zalari had only been allowed to live because the humans allowed it. As the last Zalari ship cleared the human perimeter, the voice spoke one final time. Do not test us again. We are not what we once were. Humanity has returned. The comms went dead. The Zalari fleet fled into the dark, leaving the human warships behind. The giant vessels remained motionless, glowing faintly, like sleeping titans waiting for the next challenger. On the bridge of the Vorketh, Admiral Threx whispered to himself, they were never gone, only hidden, and now the galaxy will tremble. The Zalari fleet was scattered across the edge of human-controlled space. Ships that once bristled with confidence now trembled under the silent gaze of the human armada. Even the bravest commanders kept their weapons lowered, their pride swallowed by fear. But the humans did not attack immediately. They were not cruel. They were deliberate. They wanted the aliens to understand the true cost of misjudging humanity. On the flagship Vorketh, Admiral Threx gripped the railing, claws digging deep into the metal. His scales had darkened with stress, and his eyes flicked nervously across the sensors. Every reading screamed power beyond comprehension. Sensor Officer Yelra's claws hovered over the console, unable to stop the flood of data. Admiral, they are doing something. I don't know how to describe it. The energy readings, it's like a star but controlled, focused, and weaponized. The fleet watched in stunned silence as one human warship detached drones from its hull. Thousands of them, sleek and silent, moved with perfect coordination. Within minutes, the swarm surrounded a massive asteroid. Engage weapons! A Zalari captain finally shouted, desperation in his voice, but no one followed him. Fear had frozen the rest. The drones began their work. The asteroid, kilometers wide, broke apart as if it were made of paper. Rocks vaporized, dust and debris pulled into the swarm, reshaped, and reconstructed into a massive structure, an orbital fortress that hovered silently. The Zalari officers could only stare, their mouths open. One muttered, They built an entire station in minutes? It's not minutes, Yelra corrected, voice shaking. It's seconds. They took a moon, a solid rock, and turned it into a fortress. And it is fully operational, already. Admiral Threx's pride twisted into panic. They had underestimated humanity. Their myths had been lies, and their arrogance had blinded them. Before the fleet could recover, another human vessel demonstrated a different type of power. Its weapons activated silently, without warning, and a pulse shot out at the flagship. Vorketh. Systems failed instantly. Shields flickered off, engines went dead, and every sensor went dark. Panic erupted on the bridge. Officers screamed as consoles sparked. Communications were cut. The ship drifted powerless, a giant of the fleet now helpless. Then, slowly, systems returned. Lights flickered back on, engines roared to life, and weapon systems came online as if nothing had happened. The humans had not destroyed them. They had merely shown what they could do. They shut us down, Yelra whispered, fear thick in her voice. Completely. And we are still alive. Admiral Threx swallowed hard. He had never felt such helplessness in his life. The humans did not need to attack. They only needed to demonstrate that they could. That alone was enough. The human fleet now spread out in the void, its ships moving with grace and purpose. Each vessel was massive, glowing with energy, and bristling with weapons the aliens could not even identify. The Zalari fleet tried to maintain formation, but fear and awe fractured them. One of the human warships released another swarm of drones. This time, the target was a derelict asteroid field. In seconds, the drones dismantled dozens of asteroids, refining them into raw materials, constructing defensive turrets, and building a complete energy grid in the middle of space. "A young Zalari," officer whispered, voice trembling. "They are not building, they are creating. And we cannot stop them." The humans did not respond to fear with anger. They responded with precision, calm, and inevitability. Every movement was a lesson in restraint and power. The Vorketh and the surrounding fleet watched as the humans prepared another demonstration. A massive wave of energy formed around one warship, bending light and gravity alike. A single pulse fired into empty space, but its effect was catastrophic. A distant moon, untouched and unclaimed, cracked along fault lines, splitting into pieces. The Zalari felt the shock wave in their own hulls, though the energy had not physically touched them. Space itself seemed to bend at the command of the human warship. "Admiral, they are not using conventional weapons," Yelra said, voice shaking. It's like they control the fabric of space." Threx's claws dug deeper into the railing. He could feel the truth of it. Humanity had returned, and they had evolved far beyond what the Zalari had ever imagined. The human commander finally opened the channel. The voice was calm, steady, and filled with authority. "Your fleet is strong," it said, "but strength alone does not make you invincible. You saw what a single vessel can do. Imagine what an entire fleet can accomplish." The words hung in the void like a warning. They were not threats. They were truth. Threx opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He could not deny what he had seen. His pride had failed him, and now reality pressed down with crushing force. The human fleet moved as one. Another ship fired a pulse that did not strike a target, but instead enveloped a nearby dead planet. The surface cracked, mountains split, and oceans boiled in seconds. The Zalari fleet watched helplessly as the humans demonstrated not just weapons, but complete control over matter and energy. Some officers fainted. Others curled into themselves. Even the bravest captains trembled. The human voice spoke again. "This is restraint. We do not come to conquer, but we do come to warn. The galaxy has underestimated humanity for too long. We are back, and we will not be ignored." The Zalari fleet now understood the message. The humans could destroy entire worlds, fleets, and colonies without breaking a sweat. Resistance was not an option. Survival required submission. Admiral Threx finally made a decision. He ordered all ships to stand down, engines powering down to reduce threat signals. Weapon systems were disabled across the fleet. Every officer obeyed without hesitation. Fear had replaced pride. The human fleet, sensing compliance, slowly retracted its demonstrations. The energy pulses faded, the drones returned, and the warships settled into a silent orbit. The humans did not pursue. They did not need to. The lesson had been delivered. As the Zalari ships floated in silence, still reeling from what they had seen, Threx realized something terrifying. Humanity had not only returned, they had prepared for centuries. Every myth, every warning, every fear was true, but no one had believed it. They were never weak, he whispered to himself. They were never gone. They were waiting, preparing, and we woke them. On the horizon, the human warships remained, glowing faintly, their silhouettes impossible and alien. They were a new power in the galaxy, unstoppable and inevitable. And the Zalari knew this. Scanning the human warship had been their first mistake. Underestimating it had been their second. And facing the full force of humanity would be their final test. Admiral Threx slumped into his chair, scales pale with shame. He understood that no fleet, no empire, and no strategy could stand against the humans if they chose to act. "They've returned," he whispered. And the galaxy will never be the same. The part ended with the human fleet glowing faintly, silent but alive with unimaginable power. The Zalari fleet began its slow, trembling retreat, each officer aware of one simple truth. Humanity had awakened, and they were no longer to be underestimated. The Zalari fleet had barely left human-controlled space when whispers of panic filled every ship. Officers paced, scales trembling, voices low with fear. They had seen what humans could do. Asteroids vaporized, moons shattered, fleets disabled, and they knew that it was only a warning. They had survived, yes, but by luck, by restraint, and by humanity's mercy. On the flagship Vorketh, Admiral Threx slumped into his command chair. His claws gripped the metal so tightly that small scratches appeared, but he barely noticed. Every thought ran in circles. How could a single species, one they had believed extinct or weak, return to claim such unimaginable power? Sensor Officer Yelra hovered over her console, silent. The reading still glowed on the screen, faint pulses of energy radiating from distant points where the human fleet remained. Even now the humans did not pursue, did not attack, but the sense of threat was total. "They are not chasing us," she whispered. "They could destroy us in seconds, and yet they let us go." Threx did not answer. Words felt meaningless. He realized a truth he could not deny. The humans had never been what anyone expected. Back across the void, the human fleet remained in formation, massive and silent. The vessels were alive with quiet energy, each one capable of untold destruction. From a distance it looked calm, almost serene, but the calm carried power beyond imagination. On the flagship, a human commander observed the retreating Zalari. His face was calm, almost expressionless, but his eyes were sharp and calculating. Every movement, every hesitation of the alien fleet had been recorded, analyzed, and stored. Humanity had returned to the galaxy not just as survivors, but as strategists and rulers. "Let them go," he said softly. "They know now." The officers around him nodded. They did not need orders. The message had been sent. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and that mistake would never be repeated. Meanwhile, the Zalari fleet began to regroup at the edge of known space. Captains whispered to one another, trying to justify their survival. "They did not kill us," one said. "Perhaps they are not hostile." "Not hostile," another hissed. "They just showed they can erase our fleets in moments." "How is that not hostile?" Admiral Threx remained silent. He knew the answer. They had survived because the humans chose to spare them. It was a mercy, not a weakness. "Prepare a report for the Council," Threx finally said, voice heavy. "Tell them everything. They will need to understand the truth. Humanity is back, and they are beyond anything we feared." The officers nodded, but in their hearts they understood. The report would not capture the full terror, the full reality. Humanity was not just returning. They were returning as the new superpower of the galaxy. As the Zalari ships drifted toward safety, the humans began to make small adjustments in the void. Drones repaired a distant asteroid, restructured it into a forward observation post. Weapons recalibrated. Energy pulses rippled across the fleet. Each movement was subtle, almost artistic, but carried the undeniable power of a force unmatched in the galaxy. A young Zalari officer aboard the Vorketh whispered to himself, voice trembling. "They could destroy everything if they wanted, and we would not survive." Yelra nodded silently. "Yes, and the worst part is, they do not even need to. Just being there is enough to control us." Threx realized she was right. The humans did not need to conquer, attack, or destroy to dominate the galaxy. They only needed to exist, visible, awake, and aware. The presence of humanity was now enough to shift the balance of power. Hours passed. The Zalari fleet remained, in silent retreat, too afraid to raise shields, too afraid to challenge the humans again. And somewhere in the distance, the human warships remained. Each pulse of energy, each glow of the hull was a reminder of what the aliens had awakened. The voice spoke one final time over the long-range comm. Calm, clear, authoritative. This is your final warning. Do not test us again. Do not provoke us. Humanity remembers the past, and humanity has prepared for the future. Treat this as your chance to survive. Ignore it at your own peril. Every ship in the Zalari fleet trembled as the words echoed across space. Not threats, not demands, simply truth. Admiral Threx lowered his head. He understood now. They had made a mistake by scanning the human warship. That mistake had revealed them, and it had awakened a species far beyond their imagination. The galaxy itself had shifted, and the Zalari could only retreat to survive. They were never gone, he whispered. They were waiting, preparing, and we woke them. As the Zalari fleet crossed into safer space, messages were sent back to home worlds. Panic spread among political leaders, fleet commanders, and council delegates. Stories of the human fleet, of moons vaporized and fleets disabled, traveled faster than any transmission could manage. Across the galaxy, whispers became warnings. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. On the human flagship, the commander watched the signals he did not celebrate. Humanity had not returned for war. Yet the galaxy would understand that war was always a possibility, and in such a case the humans would not lose. History will remember this moment, he said softly. The galaxy will never forget what it allowed humanity to become. The human officers nodded silently. They did not need to speak. The presence of humanity, calm, measured, and infinitely powerful, was enough to ensure the truth. Back in the Zalari fleet, the retreat continued. Ships were quiet. Officers were silent. Pride had been replaced with fear. Even the bravest warriors had no illusions left. Humanity was no longer a distant myth. They were a living, unstoppable force returning to claim their place among the stars. Admiral Threx finally spoke, voice hoarse. We have learned the truth. Too late. Humanity is not what we believed. They are beyond anything we could imagine. Yelra nodded. Yes, Admiral, and we will not forget it ever. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to a new era. Humanity had returned, and the Zalari, and all the galaxy, would remember the day they scanned a human warship and realized, too late, the magnitude of their mistake. The human fleet drifted silently behind them, a living shadow of unimaginable power. Every pulse, every glow, every subtle movement was a warning. Humanity had returned. The galaxy had changed forever. The Zalari fleet moved forward, but in their hearts they knew nothing would ever be the same.